And that's just going to bring me to the first topic of the day, talking about the CEO of WarnerMedia saying, I think he made a boo-boo, y'all. I think he made a boo-boo. And I have the report right here from Vox. It says WarnerMedia's CEO says that in 2020, his movies would debut in theaters before they stream. That's a great idea. A chat with Jason Kilar, who wants to unwind his controversial streaming plan. A few months ago, WarnerMedia upended Hollywood by streaming all of his new movies on HBO Max on the same day they debuted in theaters. Now it wants to put the genie back in the bottle. Starting next year, CEO Jason Kilar says Warner's biggest movies will debut in theaters first and eventually make their way to the company's streaming service. And again, guys, I have that full article down in the description box below if you do want to read that in its entirety. But let me go ahead and bring up the first quote, and then I'm gonna give my 2 cents, and I'm gonna come to you, James. And it says, I think it's very fair to say that a big, let's say a big DC movie, is very fair to say that will go exclusively to theaters first, and then go somewhere like HBO Max after it is in theaters. He told me on this week's episode of Recode Media. Now, just real quick, my 2 cents on this. I think this is one of the craziest, stupidest, wildest decisions that has ever been made in Hollywood. How you can release all of these $50 million to $250 million blockbusters last minute. I'm just gonna put it on streaming and not talk to nobody, not talk to this guy. It was in charge of it, not talk to no directors, no writers, producers, actors, the agencies, lawyers, nothing. The financiers, hey, we're just gonna release it and just see what happens. I think that's crazy. I've talked about it on this channel a number of times. But James, I'm coming to you first, man. How did you feel about that decision initially? And also, how do you feel about the CEO, Jason Kilar of WarnerMedia, backpedaling on this monumentally stupid idea that he came up with in December of last year?
For sure. So initially, I won't lie to you guys, I was feeling some type of way because I love the theatrical experience. Honestly, the movies that I love today are only as good sometimes as the crowds that are in that auditorium. And I think that every film you see is really amplified by a theatrical experience. And I was really upset because of the fact that, especially what you mentioned, they went about it in the wrong way. Just because you could sometimes doesn't mean you should. Just because you could just go and drop it on HBO Max day and date doesn't mean you should without talking and consulting with these financiers, with these lawyers and actors, because a lot of those actors' contracts are tied up in box office revenue. So if they're not getting a return on investment, then it almost feels like that 110% they put into a movie, they're not going to see a return on. Now, as the pandemic started to get a little bit bad, I won't lie to you both, I was a little bit more empathetic with those who wanted to see it at home. I had an issue, though, with the theatrical window being so tiny, though. And I think Godzilla vs. Kong is proving that movies can do very well in theaters during a pandemic, and they can survive on streaming, but that theatrical window doesn't need to be day and date. I think limit it, maybe do 30 days, and I think people will still be happy to wait 30 days if they really want to watch it at home. But I do feel like they need to really trend back in that direction of just exclusive theatrical windows. And I'm kind of glad he reversed his decision, because he knows when Black Adam comes out, with The Rock, with Aldous Hodge, with all of those amazing actors, they're going to rake in close to $1 billion. If Aquaman can do it, Black Adam's going to do it. So he's thinking about that as well.
Right on, right on. And let me go ahead and grab the super chat real quick before I come to you, Larry. What we got here? Let me see. Thank you so much, Karma. I do appreciate it for the $19.99. Shows cannot stop the show. Thank you so much, ma'am. I do appreciate it. You are really helping out the show and keeping it going. And Larry, before I come to you again, let me go ahead and pull up this second quote real quick. It says, but he admits that his company stumbled when it announced his plans late last year, rivaling the movie making and the movie distributing businesses. There's no doubt that it was bumpy back in early December of last year, he said, adding that if he was able to replay his decision, he would have tried to give a heads up to some of the members of Hollywood, of the Hollywood community. If I had the chance to do it over again, I think it's very fair to say that we would have taken a couple more days to see if we could have even more conversations than we were able to have. He just said more days. That's crazy. Larry, how you feeling about this, man? How you feeling about the decision and him backpedaling and all that horrible stuff?
I think it was brilliant. I think it's going to turn out to be a financial genius. This is going to be a financially genius decision that he will have made. And I think that he's going to have to turn around and backtrack on his backtrack. He's going to have to eat his words again, because he's going to turn around and look and realize, holy crap, our streaming numbers have gone through the roof. That our subscriber numbers have gone through the roof, where they would not have if we didn't put those movies out there. Not to mention, let's not forget all the goodwill that like don't get me wrong, the Hollywood elite, all these actors that are used to making millions of dollars, the producers, the directors, all these people out there that are making millions of dollars, and the associated people that get paid from that, all the agents and managers who want their 10, 12, 15%, that they need their actors to make a lot of money so their percentage equals more money. I understand why they're all pissed off. But let's not forget about all of the hundreds of millions of us, in this country alone, the billions of us around the world that have been locked up in our homes through the pandemic. And what they did in that moment was said, we are going to be good corporate citizens of the world, and we produce entertainment and content. People are not likely to stay in their home if they are not entertained, so they put the stuff out there to entertain us. And I know some people are saying, well, they did it for the whole year and the movies haven't all come out yet. People need to remember, we are still in the midst of a pandemic. The numbers are going back up. And we need to keep our butts at home and watch some HBO Max. And I'm sorry,
I'm confused, bro. I'm confused on where you at on this. You said it's a good idea. Are you saying it's a good idea that he's putting the movies back in theaters next year? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying it's a good idea that they're on streaming. And it's a good idea that I think they ought to keep putting them on streaming. I think that he's going to have to eat his words again. I think he's going to have to turn around and eat his words again, especially when they go out there and find that, okay, the movie theaters are only at 25% or 50% capacity, and they're not making as much money as they thought. And now the theatrical receipts are going to be reduced. And the number and his streaming numbers are going to be reduced. Whereas he could have just said, I'm going to keep putting this stuff out there. My streaming numbers are going to explode, and we may be the next thing just shy of Netflix.
Wait a minute. So you're saying it's a bad idea that he's putting the movies back in theaters next year?
Absolutely. I think he ought to keep going to streaming.
Okay, man.
You know how I feel about this. I couldn't tell. I love the theater, but I am not willing to send anybody to a theater to go watch a movie when we are in the middle of a pandemic. And I say this in part because, one, it's just not safe, for one, but also, two, we live in a country where our own citizens don't care about each other enough to wear a face mask. Now, how are you going to honestly tell me that when people are out there still dying, still getting sick, you have a third of the population that refuses to get a vaccine, and you have all these variants that are exploding, and they're saying that I think the South African one is like the most prominent one in the country right now, and the vaccines are less effective against it. How, in the midst of all of that, do you expect to go and police people wearing their mask in the dark of a movie theater? Explain that to me.
That's impossible.
Exactly.
What a money reside. What a money reside. What a money reside. What a money reside.
Sheila,
which is why I think these movies need to keep coming out. Keep streaming.
Thank you so much, Sheila, for the $20 super chat.
Man, you got me going. You know I'm passionate about this issue.
I know you are.
What I do want to say to that, though, Larry, I feel like he should have crafted his response in a way that would appease both those who want to see that day and date, and also those who can maybe understand the theatrical experience wanting to live on. What if he said, okay, you know what, guys, we'll put our movies in theaters first, and then 15 days afterwards, we'll drop it on HBO Max. Do you think that would be would that ease your concerns, or would that be okay with you, Larry, or no?
I mean that would probably help if they did like 15 days. Yeah. I mean, I feel like that's sort of what they're doing with well, I don't know if they're doing it right now. It feels like what they're doing with Mortal Kombat, because I think Mortal Kombat's in theaters right now, right?
Overseas.
Overseas.
Okay. And then it's coming on the 23rd. So I mean, they could do 15 days, 7 days, 15 days, whatever. I mean, it could work that way. Personally, I don't want to see anybody in the theaters. I don't want people in the theaters until this thing works out. And if that means the theaters go under, that sucks. But It just
come on, bro. You can't just,
the theaters run on an old, antiquated business model,
Larry,
and they need to get into the 21st century. They need to move away from their current business model. It does not work in the long run, and all they're doing is just putting off the inevitable.
Larry, adjustments need to be made, yes, but I don't know. You don't think that's just a bit dismissive, just to throw away a $1 billion business industry like that, like overnight? Well, not over. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, come on.
The studios aren't making $1 billion off of it.
I'm talking about the theaters, though. You know,
yeah, but the studios aren't making $1 billion. The theaters are not the studio's concern. The theaters are a means to an end for the studios. The studios only need to worry about their business model and let the theaters worry about theirs.
They need each other. We're not gonna be getting no.
That's the thing. The streaming model is making it that they don't need the theaters anymore. They just need some really big brains to get in there and fine tune the business model for streaming.
That's fine. Just say bye Avengers: Infinity War, Endgame, and all these other $200 million films. Okay, you cannot make movies that cost that much and put it on streaming. It just won't work. Now you can make these smaller productions like your Knives Out and your Cobra Kai's and your 50 million and maybe even 100 million and below. But all these big blockbuster tempos, bye. I mean, if you're just gonna throw away the theaters, I mean that's how I see it.
They could do the tent poles in the theaters if they want to. Once it's safe. There you go. I like that.
Hold on. Oh crap.
What a money reside, what a money reside, what a money reside, what a money reside.
Right on. 999 Laney Womack coming through. The energy on this live is unmatched, and I absolutely love it here. Can everyone please drop the IG because I want to follow and all y'all. Where's my just my opinion, fam? This is my last super chat because I saw my Dodge. Thank you so much.
Going too early, man.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. You are wonderful, Laney. For real. Thank you. But go ahead, my brother. Go ahead.
Yeah, I really honestly believe that. I honestly believe that the theaters, whether or not they continue on with tent poles or not, I think if their lifespan is limited because they're not evolving, they're not changing. And now that they've gotten rid of that law that prevented the studios from also being exhibitors, I think it's just a matter of time before they get into that game as well.
I was gonna say though, but with respect, man, like AMC just dropped a few billion on renovating their theaters to increase the experience, and the pandemic happened. So when you say they're not changing it, AMC, the largest theater in the country, was trying to make changes. You know what I'm saying? But the pandemic happened. But
and here's the thing: COVID's not going away. COVID's not going. Like, people can say, oh, they want the pandemic to be over. But here's the thing. All it takes is for one of these variants to kick up where all of a sudden you're like, oh, damn, I'm vaccinated, but I have this new variants out there that's killing people again. And they have to start shutting everything down again. And it's just going to be one of those things where if they don't provide some way for people to enjoy a theatrical experience without actually being in the theater, I have been a big proponent when this thing set off of going back to the drive-in movie theaters. Let people drive on in, and even if you don't have a car, put some benches out there. Let people go in and sit outside, and at least it's a little bit safer if you're outside in the open air. But they didn't make any attempts to do that. They just shut down, complained, lobbied. Oh, we need to open up 25%. And the thing is, they make all their money off concessions. Do you honestly believe they're going to try and police people to keep their mask on, knowing that the majority of their income comes from selling popcorn and sodas and candy? And if people can't eat, they're not going to buy. What a money reside.
What a money reside. What a money reside. What a money reside.
Thank you, L. Robinson, for the 99 super sticker. I do appreciate it. Thank you. I hear you, man. I hear you. I didn't mean to do that.
If I was the head of a studio, I would change all kinds of stuff. I would start putting out my own theaters. I would start building those out. Hell, I would start going to these big theater schools at Juilliard and Yale, theater school. I would go over to France, to Paris, to the Sorbonne. I would go to all these places, start pulling the best young actors, NYU, pull all these best young actors in. I would start an old school studio program. I'd put them back on salary. I would put them on salary so that I get at least good 3-4 pictures out of them before they go and start making, you know, $50-60 million. I was like, yeah, The Rock get out. The Rock may get his $50 million a movie or whatever it is, but the next dude, the next big rock, the next dude that's sexy, the next hot chick like Angelina Jolie is going to be under contract with my studio, you know?
Well, cool.
You know what I
man.
will say too? I feel like AMC was onto something when they also released their streaming platform. You remember? I think this went like under the radar for a lot of people, but AMC has a streaming like I guess substitute for people who don't want to go into theaters with new releases for about like 30 days or so. But they never really committed to that. So I almost feel like the pandemic should have accelerated that business model for them, and it didn't. And like you said, they kind of just went and they fell on the laurels of NATO, the North American theater organization, I believe. And they definitely they just kind of like submitted to it, but they really do need to kind of reformat. So as much as I want the theatrical experience to live, if they just say, well, darn it, no, everyone still should come to the theater without providing a substitute, I don't see them living too long.
Well, let me go ahead and bring in my third. Let me go ahead and bring in my third guest of the show, coming from the east side as well, and that is Mr. Lamont with Life Gains. How you doing, my brother? How you doing? The two cool shakes. What's good, my brother? What's good? I like the look.
I like the look. What's up?
What's up, man?
How y'all doing?
We doing good, man. How you doing, man? How you doing?
I wanted to feel like my brother Jerome on Snowfall, so I decided to come up here dressed like Jerome. You never know what you're gonna get with me.
I ain't mad at you, man. I ain't mad at you, man. You know that's what's up. Lamont meet James meet Lamont. This is funny right here, man. Lamont, we still on the first topic. We still on the first topic here, man, with the CEO of WarnerMedia coming out saying that he's gonna put his movies back in theaters next year. How you feeling about that?
Hey, hold on, B. Avery. Before we move on, can I because Real James brought up something that we had talked about before. I wanted to address it before I forget it.
Oh, my fault. Go ahead.
So the AMC streaming platform that you mentioned, my thought was this: was that I used to be a subscriber to the AMC A-List Plus, where you get to go and see 3 movies a week, you know, for like $20-something a month. And my thought was, why not do that same thing for new releases where you pay that $21 or $25, whatever it is, and you can watch 3 new releases as a rental per week, except you don't have to go to the theater. So you still generate that income. It's often more consistent income because people don't always watch each and every movie. Just like me, I didn't go to the movies 3 times a week, every week, you know? So that would be perfect. And I don't understand why they just didn't do it. I mean, at the time of the pandemic, when everybody was filled with uncertainty, that was the perfect time to go in with the studios and renegotiate those contracts for your streaming to allow that to happen.
I agree. And honestly, like most rentals nowadays for these premium video on demand, it's $19.99 anyway. So I think the $25 model would have worked for 3 rentals.
Yeah.
There you go. Lamont, you got anything?
I'm disgusted.
Okay. Cool.
That's why I grew some hair in 24 hours and got some damn shades. I'm not gonna say I'm disgusted. That's too harsh of a term. I would say we knew that was going to happen, but at the same time, I thought that this was going to be an opportunity for the movie theaters to have a streaming subscription model where people could watch movies at home, pay a premium, and still be able to go to the movie as an option. I thought that we was actually seeing the turn of something new with what was going on in the movie theaters, and it's I'm not shocked because I felt like Hollywood was having a backlash toward these companies going straight to stream, but I would have liked to have seen them take this opportunity to make some kind of subscription service where you can go to the theaters and also stream it at home.
Right on. Well, I hear you, my brother. I hear you.